if they wanted it to read making sense, because according to the rules of the English language, according to the Oxford definitions, and according
and
to
the Chicago Style Guide,
the Chicago Manual of Styles, this is a language other than English.
Yeah, thank you for joining me again. Now, parts 1 and 2, what we looked at there was how is the Genesis in particular is not quite as you read it or as you usually gets presented in church. And you can see quite clearly there's different identities. There's a God, the capital G, small o-d. There's a Lord God, there's a Lord. And as Luke took us through, if you go back to the original Hebrew and the original Greek versions of the Bible that the English translations are made from, you'll find there's different words there as well. And what Luke did was guide us through then using the concordance book, Strong's Concordance. We could look at that and you could actually see that we're talking about different entities. There is not just one God running through the whole Bible. There are different gods. Now we also looked at then was how there was a pantheon of gods with the old Hebrews, which is a whole group of gods, and you can work out how which we will cover more in a future video, which Hebrew characters fit in with which Greek pantheon gods. I will also then try and add at some point how this ties in with the Welsh pantheon, some of that's covered in the Mabinogi, and you'll find that the Welsh gods and folklores and stories also match in with that, which also becomes intriguing. Now, one of the key things we got tonight now is this legal persona thing. I just want to make it very clear, I'm not a legal professional. I'm not offering legal advice. This is just talking about the theory of law. Neither is Luke. We're talking about the principles of law and the fundamentals, because it's very important, extremely important. You've got on the basic level, if ever you're in a court, it's very dangerous at the moment. A lot of people are being caught up with this idea about free men and common law and legal fictions, and just say, oh, I'm not my legal fiction, I'm a flesh and blood person, therefore your laws don't apply to me. It's a dangerous game to play, all right? There's more to it. But as long as we have this game going on in the courtrooms, what we'll see more about in this video is a similar game going on in the Bible, where what is called God in the Bible quite often is not God, but a legal persona being adopted and worn, if you like a cloak or a mask, by someone else who is not God, but directly related to God. So the Bible in some ways is a legal document, a contract, not directly with God though. And this is where you have to be really careful, because we're talking for big stakes here. Talking about your soul, whether you believe in these things or not, or you're atheist or whatever, doesn't really matter, because the game's being played anyway and you're in it. So it's important to know something about what the rules of the game are and how these things are defined. And it's fascinating. You've got no interest in those things at all, which should have really, but there you go, each their own, as they say. It's still fascinating to see how the Bible works when it's looked at as a legal contract and who we are contracting with. And as you saw in the last video, how Abraham cancelled his contract with the Creator God and moved to a new God. There's a Yahweh, the God of the Israelites, causing a schism of Hebrews and Israelites. There are other gods in the Bible. This is why we talk about a jealous God. I have no other gods before me. Which doesn't make much sense if there are no other gods. So this is really serious stuff. I don't do everything with a smile on my face. Does not mean I'm not taking it seriously. So again, try and get through this. In many ways, this video should have come first, because it explains the legal concepts, and this could have been part 1. So if you haven't seen the first 2 parts, don't worry, start here. And after you've seen this, you might even want to watch the other 2 parts again. So there we go, and there's quite a bit more to come, so bear with it. Hope you enjoy it, and you see Luke on fantastic form. Enjoy the video. We're going to talk about a quick introduction. We'll do it in more detail again about the fact that you have a persona, isn't it? This is your
legal
legal
person.
identity, which is very important, isn't it?
This is, yeah, because this will show you the link between how the devil is basically, or Satan or Lucifer, however you want to do it, is tricking access to the soul through consent, basically legalized consent, because he can't do it. He's not allowed to do it, you know, by his own means. He's not allowed to do it physical touch or direct touch. It's all got to be done indirectly, and this is where the legalized side of it comes into things. So basically, in modern societies around the world, every man and woman administrates two personalities, and this goes back
So
to the
where's this
old
coming from
Roman
again? No,
law.
this is coming from the. Well, you're going to give references as you go, yeah. Was this from this first quote is from? Was it the bar, isn't it, or something? The
Yeah, so the
International
International
Bar
Bar
Association. Oh, yeah, it's all
Association,
covered. Yeah, okay.
yeah, it's all covered. I cover everything down in
Sorry,
here.
yes.
So basically, everything goes back to Roman law. And then obviously we've got all of our history of where Roman law came from and where Rome came from and the Trojan side of it and everything else. And you know, what I would say is that the Trojan side, and obviously the British side, is the remnants of the old Hebrews, which broke away from the Israelites way back in time. And you've got all of the nations around the world that basically follow laws. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're in a little village, does it? If you've got a tribal leader, you've got one person that's in charge. So there's always this fundamental idea of a law, or a law controlling society. And it all goes back to Roman law, generally to Roman law. I think there's some British law, like what was it, the laws of DDA?
Blood.
Yeah,
Oh,
was it
Malmudian
no?
laws. I mean, is it Malmudian
Yeah,
law?
Mulmudian, yeah,
Yeah.
and because who did he get his from? He got them from somebody else as well, didn't he? Or
Well,
Thu
well,
or something.
well, Hywel came later. He sort of codified them, but
Right, there we are. So it's a
yeah,
similar kind of thing in the
Mulmud's
British
supposed to be
side.
the original, yeah, because he's an early British king who codified some laws, but it was very much based. It's very different to Roman law though, because it's very much based around your inalienable rights. You know, you got the
Yeah,
right to roam, the right to work, the right to carry your tools. It's that kind of
yeah. Well, it basically sets out the basic common law, doesn't it? Or the
mm.
foundations for the common
Yeah.
law.
And I've got a quote. I don't know on my wall to remind me who it was, but I mean, you find that there was case laws recently, 1800s, still referring back to Malmudian law. So
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
it's still
So
kind of
anyway,
there, yeah.
getting back to this theme about in every country in the world, there's a law society. Okay, every country has a law society, or say every country. Here we go. Out of 195 countries in the world, 170 have legal societies that are members of an international bar association. Now, this bar association works out the Square Mile in London, I believe.
Are also
Okay.
capitalized, of course.
Yeah. And these organizations use two books for all of their definitions, which I spoke to you about previously, and
Let's
I'll
show
bring
them
up
again for
again in
people
here.
coming to
Yeah,
this for the first time, yeah.
but bearing in mind, this what I'm talking about now links back to the Lord title in the Bible. So we've spoken about God being El and the Elohim, and we've also spoken about the Lord in uppercase being Jehovah as well. Okay, so two different elements of the Godhead, two different aspects, Father and Son. Okay, so this bar association has basically got the say in all of the legal structure in every single nation. So out of 170 nations, they control the legal structure of that nation. Now, all nations are controlled by law. Yeah, you'd agree on that one. So would you say that all countries are controlled by a government or by a legal association?
Well, this government's supposed to be beneath the law, isn't it?
Yeah. So
supposed to be answerable. I'm not sure if it is always, but in theory, yes.
we're looking at who the real people in charge are,
They're the
basically.
ones who set the rules anyway, don't they? Yeah.
The rule makers.
Yeah.
So they're the ones in charge, because if you break the rules, you go to prison. Yeah, you end up in trouble. So around the world, we've got this unilateral or universal striking similarities between the different nations. They've all got similar or same uniforms, and they all use the same word police, polizei, polizzi, or whatever. So what this is telling me is that there's a global centralization of power sitting beneath the surface. We might not see it, but it's there. And it's producing a template for everything that we see across the world in terms of the forces. You know, there's us and there's the Italians and stuff. So they've all got these similar kind of universes with the same names. The reoccurring theme in all of this, for many centuries, judges have dispensed justice in the world, blah, blah, blah. And the oath, still
Sworn on
sworn
a
by
Bible,
witnesses.
yeah.
It's all done on the Bible. I swear by Almighty God. Well, when this term here, the Almighty God, when we go back to those definitions, you remember we saw the definitions of the true God, Jehovah. This is what this is referring to, the true God, Jehovah. But that's only the true God according to the Jews, right? Not to the rest of us, okay? That's only according to the Cabal, the elite.
So this is not
right?
going back to El or Ear or whatever. This is
This is above El.
the Lord God.
This would be El's son. Yeah, this is the Lord. So we're talking about the Lord, but he's being referred to in this aspect as the Almighty God. Okay. And if we went and looked at this up in concordance, we would be able to associate this God with the true God Jehovah, because he's the Almighty God. Okay. So in the Bible, we've got all of the judges, they swear oaths. They swear two oaths, actually. They swear the oath of allegiance and the judicial oath. Okay. So they're swearing to the crown and to the judiciary. Okay. They're not swearing to you. You pay them, but their boss is somebody else. Okay. This is why this is why I'm going to be an independent legal exec, and I'm not going to be swearing to the crown. I'm going to be independent of them. So these are the oaths I put in there, so you can go in and check the oaths out for yourself. And the police obviously swear an oath as well. And in the police oath,
sorry, the little question on there: is it possible for a judge to remove their oath at some point and say, "I'm done with this. I'm cancelling my oath"?
to retract
forever.
it. Why would they do that?
I don't know if they suddenly realise that. Hang on a second,
A guilt trip.
Yeah, or they save the wrong person, or they would.
I think if you're in that deep, and I think if you've got to the level of a judge, and you've got to the level where you are got the funny handshakes going, I think once you're in it and you want to get out, I don't think you can. I think you're in it or you're not, basically. Right. I think it's a bit like the mafia. You know, you can't leave the mafia.
Yeah.
Or you can try and leave the mafia, but you've got
there's no such thing as a former CIA agent, isn't it?
Yeah. What was that film with Tom Cruise in it where he went up against? He was that solicitor, he was that new lawyer, wasn't he? And he was a lawyer for the mob.
Something was it? Or?
Yeah, and Gene Hackman was in it and stuff. The only way he got out of it was by having a hand, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Where he managed to get out of it, and he Anyway, let's go back to it.
Yeah, different films, yes.
So, as an example of our law, an act of Parliament, it being an act, it being a show, there you can see there, but a reference to this act to persons, right? It says there, persons infected by coronavirus. I'll just use this as an example, because you will find every single act of Parliament never refers to man or women. It always refers to persons. Okay,
and why is that?
Because that's your legal entity.
Your legal persona. It's not actually living. You don't have a living, breathing thing as such. You just have your.
This goes back to the beginning. In modern societies around the world, every man and woman administrates two personalities, okay, with regards to living within society. One is the natural person, your human being. So that's yourself, your human being. And the other one is the legal persona. Well, it used to be called persona in the days of Rome, but they just took the A off, yeah, and made it a person. I'll show you that in a minute. So it refers to the person. All of the acts of Parliament never refer to a man or woman. Well, a man or woman can be a person, but a person can't be a man or a woman, because a person is an illegal entity. Okay,
it's an innate thing, isn't it? Really, yeah.
Yeah. So in any of the definitions, and I'll scroll down in a minute because this post does actually have all the definitions of it. So a man can be a person, but a person can't be a man. Obviously, because a man's real, a man's a natural person. So in this bit, I just look at the actual etymology of the word, of the name, and as you can see, it all comes from the Old English nama or noma, German, Saxon, Gothic, all stems from the ones that we love, or the ones that love the British. Yeah. And the Old English, Namian, to bestow a particular name and to call upon. So again, coming from Proto-Germanic.
Yeah, I don't think you have the same thing in Welsh, really. That's interesting. I have to look into that more.
Yeah, Naman, Nuaman, Middle Dutch, Named. And it all comes from this Proto-Germanic. So
yeah, because the Welsh is more like I am called rather than having a name, I think.
Yeah, son of. So then in the UK,
you'd say what are you called rather than what's your name? You know, it's kind of
yeah.
use enu.
So after you're born, the General Register of that's the GRO, yeah. Documents is created depending on which country you live in. So the moment you're born, the midwife or the nurse or the doctor, whoever delivered you, fills out a live birth document. It's called a live birth register. Okay, this is different to your birth registration. Yeah,
right,
your
okay.
birth certificate. It's called your live birth record. Okay, now you can actually do a subject access request to obtain a copy of that birth record. You need to go back to your original hospital, okay, that you were born in. Go to the
what if that's still not there? If it's not there anymore, they're always knocking these things down, aren't they?
So if it's not there, whoever would have taken over that hospital would have become the records.
Follow the trail. Right?
Yeah, you follow the trail. So, for example, I was born in Bedford General. I've already been in touch with Bedford General hospital, where I've got the relevant information to put in a subject access request. So I know this birth record exists because I've spoken to them. I haven't actually applied for mine yet, but I know that it exists because I was originally told that you'd find it with your GP, in your birth records with your GP. And I obviously went to my GP and asked to go through my records. I didn't tell them why. You're allowed access to any of your medical records. So I literally contacted my GP. This was a couple of years ago now. And I went down there, and all of the records that they held, they got out for me, and I sat in a little room and was just flicking through them and stuff to see if that record was in there, and it wasn't in there.
Why do you want to see that then? Why are you interested in the live birth record?
Well, the live birth record is an interesting document because it's a document that doesn't contain your surname. Okay, it doesn't contain your surname. It only contains your parents' surname. So you're listed on that document as Luke or Ross or whatever your birth name is, which would be your Christian name. And this record, this birth record, is then sent to the General Register's office. And once they receive that birth record, they then contact your parents to say, you've got to come in and get your birth certificate.
You have so many months to register. Yeah.
So from that birth record is a record of your natural person. Okay, that's your natural person because it is your live birth record, which was filled in the moment you were born. Okay. You as a parent didn't even get to see that for your kids, did you?
Didn't you know there was one? No.
You didn't even know it existed, mate, because it gets filled in without you even knowing about it. So it's getting filled out without you knowing about it.
Yeah.
And then they send that to the General Records Office, and they use that record to create your legal persona, which is your birth certificate. Okay, that is evidence of your legal persona. So the birth of a person. So every man and woman has two births: a live birth when they are born, and the birth of their legal person. Well, it's the same as a ship, isn't it? A ship is birthed. It's got a birthing
Yes.
ramp,
Yeah.
or whatever it is,
Break the bottle
and
of
it's
champagne and all that.
yeah, and it's birthed into the waters. It goes into the waters, which is why when you go into court, you've got
The
what's
dock.
that? The dock. You go into the dock. So yeah, when you're born, parents were issued with a birth certificate using the family surname, and this is where we get into the. I mean, obviously highlighted it there. This is where we get into this uppercase. Dog Latin is what it was originally called, Dog Latin language, and that's actually in Black Law's 4th edition. Okay, there's actually a language called Dog Latin, and it's defined as the language of illiterate people. Black Law's 4th.
Yeah, when I say illiterate, and this again, all these, I mean, you explained to me all these words have a legal meaning as well as what
Yes.
they
Yeah, it
might
means
not,
you're literate legally.
like not be the same as in general conversation. So if
Yes.
I was to say to you, you're illiterate, you say, no, I can read and write. But that's not
Yeah.
what it means, is it? When illiterate in this
No,
case is to do with your knowledge of the law, isn't it? You're literate in that
absolutely.
sense.
You
Yeah.
don't know the words. And this is where I said about the Bible with the concordance, with God. Look at how many definitions we've got of God, and I did show you the capitalized version of God, didn't I?
Not on the film, just we did that when we were
Ah,
discussing, weren't we? Because it's in Genesis 6, you can see it there, yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I
let's
did show.
continue.
I'm pretty sure. Anyway, getting
Okay,
back to
right.
this.
Anyway, Genesis
Um,
6, you'll see if everyone's get their Bibles out, we'll probably come back to it again.
yeah.
God goes from capital G, lowercase od, to suddenly appearing as capital G, capital O, capital D.
Yeah,
This is a
that's
legal
correct.
persona or the person of God.
Yeah, so he's
Rather
acting in the
than,
legal capacity of God, not
yes,
as in God itself. So we're talking about the devil is
we're
acting
creating
in
a
the
contract
capacity.
situation, aren't we?
Yeah, creating a contract is to thieve your soul, basically. This is what it's about. And as long as you're contracting, he can have your soul, because as soon as you say no, he can't. It's as simple as that. So he's got to trick you into saying yes. And this is where the legal persona comes into it, because when they say to you, your person has got to do this, most people automatically assume, well, I'm my person, I'm me.
I've got to go and
But
do
what
it,
they
yeah.
don't realize is that they're talking about your legal personality. And as soon as you consent to being your legal personality, they can have your soul, because they get your soul through your legal personality, because you're consenting to it. Okay. So here we go, the legal person. So for example, examples of legal names. John is a normal name. It's your Christian name. Yeah. But then we get into this version, and you've probably seen this sometimes on documents. John Smith, normal name. So we've got a proper noun, as it should be, and then we've got this version. I nearly swore. This John Smith. So this is a
Capitalized
legal
dog
name.
Latin version, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So this is the Latinized version. This is the Dog Latin version. And then we have this version where it's all uppercase. So this is another version of a legal name. And then we have this one which sometimes gets people, because it's like, well, they're both rendered as proper nouns. So if they're rendered as proper nouns, that must mean they're grammatically correct. Yes, they are grammatically correct, but legally, it's still a legal name because it's got your surname in it.
Oh,
And
even
I'll
if it's
show
not
you why.
capitalized, right? Okay.
Even though it's not, even though it's rendered properly as a proper noun, as you would with a capital thing, because it is your surname, it's still a legal name. Okay. So they can get you on that as well, and you're thinking, oh, I'm
Because
writing my name properly,
this tied
but
in
it's your
with
surname.
this is
Okay,
something
so
tied in
now,
with the Welsh situation where you didn't have surnames, did you? You had son of.
yeah. So this is where again it's changed
Daughter
again, and
of.
this is all changed in the Middle Ages. So just using this example of a birth certificate, Archie, was it Archie Harrison, Mountbatten, Windsor? Well, look at Mountbatten, Windsor.
Oh, yeah. So that's the
Yeah,
family name.
that's the family name. That is the surname. Okay, that's the surname.
Ignoring
It's the
Windsor being
legal
a
name.
made-up name as well for the time being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. And there you go. Look, mother's maiden name, Markle, surnamed. Yeah.
Hey?
Uppercase. Markle.
Hang on, whose certificate are we looking at? Oh, 2019. All right, okay, sorry, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we're looking down. Can you see my thing pointing?
I can, yeah, it's circling the Markle. Yeah, I can see that. So I'm just trying to think who we're talking about at the moment.
That's Meghan Markle, isn't it?
So Archie is the son of
Harry and
Harry.
Meghan.
I'm sorry, I'm not keeping up very well with my royalties.
Yeah.
Archie's their son, is it? Right, okay, Archie
So
Harrison.
now, bearing in mind, I think this certificate is like a bit of a joke, because I can't imagine that they've registered their son, because they don't need. They are the state basically, and I don't believe that
They've done it.
they do that. But for this purpose of this, it's an
especially,
example.
yeah, it's an amusing one to look at. But also, you've got I guess you've got the situation where if they're aware of this legal persona, they might not want to do that.
Well, they wouldn't have to, would they?
No.
They don't need to. They've got no requirement. For a start, they don't need to rely on the state for any kind of benefits or anything like that.
It's interesting they go Mountbatten-Windsor as well. That's two pseudo names stuck together, really.
Yeah, but that, if you remember what I said to you about when I showed you the information from what was the book, Chicago Manual of Styles.
Yes, we haven't done it on videos though, remember?
Yeah,
so yes.
And I showed you briefly that in the Chicago Manual of Style, you've got
the
the ASL gloss.
It's a legal
The only
book,
way that ASL gloss makes sense is if you put a dash between each of the words.
Yes.
So what they've done very cleverly there is made that a valid word,
what we
or
call
structure.
hyphenated. Yeah, just explain to people, because they wouldn't have seen this. Perhaps we'll cover it again sometime. Is then there explains how things have to be presented legally. And the points I understood it, I only had a quick look, is that block capitals is called gloss. And like I say, they're not actually words unless you join them all by hyphens. So you have the whole sentence has to be THE hyphen CAT hyphen SAT and all capitalized. So what they've done there is create a sort of mini sentence in a way, haven't they?
They have. When if you look at the rest of like certified copy of an entry, all in uppercase, according to the rules of the English language, none of that is hyphenated. Yeah. So that is gobbledygook.
That should be hyphenated, shouldn't it? Yes.
It should be certified hyphenated copies, hyphenated hyphenated and hyphenated entry. If they wanted it to read making sense, because according to the rules of the English language, according to the Oxford definitions, and according to the
Chicago Style Guide,
the Chicago Manual of Styles, this is a language other than English. So just let that sink in. It's a language other than English, according to the rules of English language. We read it as English because we're illiterate in the eyes of the law, but this is dog Latin, and dog Latin was rendered in uppercase. So Latin is either written in uppercase or lowercase. It was never a mixture of the two, ever. That was the rules of Latin. So the fact that we use this dog Latin, which is a mixture of uppercase and lowercase, because we do have uppercase and lowercase, where we've got lowercase Archie Harrison, uppercase Mountbatten-Windsor.
And also the names themselves, you can see, of course, because the name Archie starts with the capital.
Yeah. So we've got all of that aspect going on in this whole of this document, look. So this certified copy of an entry means nothing in English, legally speaking. And according to official English grammar, that means nothing. It's gobbledygook.
Bizarre, isn't it?
Birth means nothing. That's not there. Child is not there. Father's not there. Mother's not there. That's not there.
So what do you mean they're not there?
Well, they're not there because they're uppercase. They're legal entities. They're not real. They're legalized entities. They're representing a human being, which is this Archie, if he is a human. Okay, they're representing a human being through fake words. So if this is all gloss wording, birth shouldn't be written in uppercase like that. It should be capital B IRTH. Same with child, same with father. Same with this certified copy of an entry. That should be capital lowercase, capital lowercase, capital lower, or lowercase of, sorry, lowercase an, capital E for entry, lowercase rest of the words. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know that.
Yeah.
Or like you
Well, I never
just
really thought
said,
about it. I mean, this is where
we
it's.
should have hyphens in between them for them to become genuinely recognizable, legally enforceable documents.
Yeah,
Because
'cause
at the moment,
if you look
they
further
mean
down the
nothing.
if you look further down the form, all the subheadings are in normal English. They're all capitals with lowercase,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
maiden surname or wherever it is there.
But
Place of
this is
birth, that kind of thing.
another thing. When you put anything in boxes, everything in that box becomes void. So basically, this entire document is void.
Well, it's void because the word birth is in Dog Latin, or it's not in gloss. Sorry, it's not in proper English.
It's void because the words are in Dog Latin, but because all of the other words are put inside boxes, which void them.
How does that void them?
It's to do with the rules. It's to do with the rules of the English language. So anything out, because what it's basically doing, all of this is classed because they put it in boxes. All of the boxes are supposed to be outside in the margins to make it valid. So like all this writing here, look, is outside in the margins, but it's not boxed, is it? So it's valid. So basically, what you've got
is not evidence of identity, of course.
Well, it says there, it says there, look, warning: a certificate is not evidence of identity.
So what the hell is it then?
You can't show it as proof of identity.
Yeah, which is a bit bizarre
because it's fake. It's fake. That's why you can't show it. So basically, the only thing that's valid on this entire document is this numbers.
Yeah.
Is these numbers and these signatures.
Yeah, in normal writing.
These. So basically, you've got signatures signing an empty document. I know there's words there. We can see them and we can read them, but it's all Dog Latin, or half of the documents. So basically, we've got some English in there, haven't we? Correct English mixed in with
all
Dog
the titles
Latin.
like place of birth and name and surname, all that kind of stuff.
But they voided all of that by putting it in boxes. So I mean, that again, that's another title for another video, Ross.
The boxes.
Going into the box side of it and the margins as well, because writing in the margins.
I mean, I obviously edit and publish books, and I so casually go uppercase, lowercase, put boxes in, just for what looks visually appealing or for layout. Obviously, we're following the rules of grammar and normal capitalizations and stuff, but you don't.
You've got to.
I've never borne all this stuff in mind before. If you box it, you make a difference.
So anyway, getting on to the surname. Okay, looking at the meaning of the word surname. So look at the word sur. It means over, sur, over, above, beyond, in addition. Okay, so basically what we've got here is a word which I've put down. So we've got a surname represents a name that is over and above birth name. Okay, which is probably the root of the modern legal personality. Okay, that's what I'm suggesting.
It actually supersedes your natural living, breathing.
By definition, it supersedes it. By definition of the sur, it means to be over, above, and beyond it, mate. Okay, and that comes from the old French sour. It's mad. Or soar, over, above, over. So now the basics are out of the way. Yeah. So I'm a man. Yeah, you're a man. I'm a human being. I administrate a persona, which is a legal entity. Look. So man, in the 11th edition of Black's Law Dictionary, look, man is an adult male. Humankind, also termed mankind. But look, historically, a vassal. A feudal tenant.
I love these legal definitions. They're so much fun. I'm going to get myself a copy of Black's Law Dictionary.
They're great. They're about £90 though. So
I can imagine. It's a big old tome, isn't it? But tome.
So what I told you earlier on.
Christmas present, the most bizarre Christmas present.
I know, and it's like, what do you want one of them for?
Just so to see what.
So I said earlier on, didn't I, that a person can be a man or a woman, but a man or a woman can't be a person.
No, because a person's not a living thing. I'm getting that.
Yeah, and there we go. There's the proof of it. Okay, there's nothing in there about man being a person or being able to be a person, right? But person can be a human being. Okay,
This is a natural person.
natural person. So here we're talking about a man has been a normal, natural human being,
Yeah. Blood
whereas
and
the
breathing, all that
person
stuff. Yeah.
can be a human being. But look at all of this as well. Look at all these other things it can be. Look at all these persons. So we've got this, the artificial person. Well, that is your businesses. That's your corporations, yeah?
Yeah, that's important. Let's stop on that one a second, isn't it? Because an entity such as a corporation created by law. That's the thing. Created by
Created by the
law.
legal
It's not
societies,
created
dude.
by God. It's created by law.
Created
And
by
it's given
law.
legal rights
Man
and
was
duties.
created by God.
Yeah, and it's given legal rights and duties of a human being.
He's treated more or less as a human being.
Yes, but not as a
Like you
man or a
said.
woman, of course. It can't be that.
Nope. It says that. It's showing you, look, a
Yeah,
man
yeah,
or a
yeah. That's
woman can't be a
fascinating.
person, but a
Fascinating.
person can be a human being. And then you've got all these different versions. And then you come down to this part here, which is the really interesting part, which is the persona.
Ah,
And
yes,
this
here we
is
go.
and this is in Blacklaw's 11th. So this is in their latest dictionary. This is still in there. And it says, look, where it's come from, Roman law, a person, an individual human being. By the Roman law, every human being who had rights, other than what was merely personal, or was subjected to obligations or duties, other than such as were merely personal, had two personalities, personas. One was natural, the other legal, artificial, and fictitious. Excuse me. And it was in the latter.
I suppose you have to look up the legal definition of fictitious as well, don't you? I mean,
No, it's artificial, fictitious.
yeah,
It's
I think
fake,
it's
isn't it?
another one that confuses people. I know it's confused me when I hear this people going on YouTube and whatever talking about legal fiction.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, absolutely. The legal fiction.
It's the correct term. It doesn't make any sense because we are illiterate. We don't understand what
Yeah,
legal
absolutely.
means.
And it says there that all of these rights are vested and these obligations and duties are invested in the latter one. So they're invested in the fictitious one.
I think the word person's easier to follow, isn't it? Because
yeah. So the person, so all of the rights are invested in the person.
Because when we think of fiction, we think of made up films and stuff, don't we? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
slightly nuanced use of the word here. When it says there's a fiction here, as I trying to get my head around it, it means there's no actual
nothing of substance there.
There's no flesh and blood thing.
No.
It's just a title deed.
It's a title. Yeah, that's correct. It's a title deed. And the interesting thing here, look at what it says at the bottom. It was not affected, therefore, by the death of the natural person.
Yeah, I love this. Yes, that's great.
But continued existence in the natural person's successor or heir. In the name, the surname.
I love that. It's brilliant.
So this is where it's continuing. It's continuing
when you die, you know,
in their surname.
Sorry, carry on. Yes.
And look at the gravestones. What's the gravestones written in? All the wording.
Capitals on the surname, isn't it? Always.
The whole of the gravestone is written in dog Latin.
Yeah,
because it's the land of the dead. Yeah, if the fictitious and artificial people are dead, they're not real. This is why you get summons to the court. Yeah, this is why you get summoned, because they can only summon dead spirits, dead people. Yeah.
So I still again, your summons is what then? Sorry.
So your person, you are administrating an artificial or fictitious person, yeah, which is a dead person. It's not real.
Hang on a second. So if I've got my surname on there, Broadstock, I'm carrying on the legal responsibility.
You're carrying on the legal persona to your sons.
My great ancestor, and it gets passed on to my ancestor.
Yeah, it gets passed on to your boys. And then that is put onto your gravestone, isn't it?
This would make sense why they had to enforce surnames onto the Welsh people then.
Yeah.
So they didn't have surnames. You're just the son of whatever.
And they needed the surname because that's the legal entity to be able to screw people over. They need that persona to screw you over. Because if you don't accept that persona, they can't screw you over. This is why sometimes if you know what to say in court and in law, they can't screw over your persona. Because if you have the right words to say, you're on an equal footing with them as a man, as a flesh and blood man. They're trying to work over you in their title capacity. So they're playing the game as a title, as a judge, and everything that they're saying is applying to your title. Yeah. But if you know the words to pull them down from their title and have them sitting there as a man, they've got no power over you, because the only person that's got power over you is God.
It's God, yeah. Yeah.
And this is why when they say to you, and they can sometimes catch you out with their jurisdiction, you're trying to be a smart ass, or one of these I don't know, what are they, free men of the earth people, and a judge turns around to you and says, would you, do you want me to bring out your witnesses? Just simple little things like, if you look up the word want.
Well, say it again. If you what? So you want to say it again?
If a judge was to turn...
Just a sentence, just a sentence. What's the judge's sentence?
If you want me to bring out your witnesses. Yeah.
If you want me to bring out your witnesses. That sounds harmless enough.
If you want me to bring out your witnesses, do you want me to bring out your witnesses? The judge says to you. Yeah. Right. Most people will go, yes, please.
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah, you want your witnesses. Yeah.
But if you're fighting that judge for jurisdiction, okay, and you're having this legal wrangle with him, and he's trying to get jurisdiction over you to put the rules onto you, your person, and you're fighting against that jurisdiction as a man, and you're going, no, I don't want none of this person business. And he turns around and says, okay, well, do you want me to bring out your witnesses for your case? As soon as he said that word want, and you say, yes, please, he's got jurisdiction over you, because he's used a word that you're not allowed to use, because you don't want anything from any other man, because God gave you everything you needed. So you don't want anything from a man. What you're supposed to turn around to that judge and say is, no, Your Honor, I don't want you to do that. I require you to do that. Two different things.
Gee whiz, man. You can see what a minefield it is.
It's as simple as that, mate.
I think some of the things going on are quite dangerous, because people, I think, are led to believe that they can just walk into court and say, I'm not recognizing my fiction, and they're going to walk out laughing at the judges. But it's a much
That's dishonourable. That's dishonourable, mate.
Game than that as well, isn't it? What do you mean it's dishonourable? It's
dishonourable in the eyes of the court. You're creating a controversy. You're not playing by the rules. If you know the words and you can play by the rules, and you can play them at their own game and they can't touch you. But if you're trying to play by their rules and you're illiterate and you're making a mockery, even though they're making a mockery of you, and you're making a mockery of their rules, you're creating a controversy in law. And that's not good, because you're in the wrong. And you don't want to be creating a controversy. You don't want to be arguing with anything. And this is the skill with law. In law, you don't argue, you ask questions. You don't argue. That's a controversy, Ross. Okay. Never, ever argue. You question. You argue through questions. You always bat the onus back onto the other person. You don't want to be the one that's proving your position. You want them to be proving your position, or trying to prove your position. Okay. And again, it's these simple little words, want and require. Both mean the same things to us. Yeah, I want you to do that. Why wouldn't I want you to do that? Well, you don't want anything from another man. And as soon as you want something from another man, you're breaking God's laws, because God provided everything for you. Okay.
Marvelous. It all goes back to God in the Bible, isn't it?
It all goes back to God, which is why they've sworn all their oaths. And I say to people, when I talk to people about this, and they go, I'm not a religious person. And I'm like, they don't care. They don't need you to be religious. They don't need it. Back in the day, when there was none of this, what we're doing now, and we've not got the telephones and we haven't got the letters, back in the day, they needed religion because it was the control mechanism. That was the word of God in the communities. All of the communities were controlled by the centralized religion, weren't they? That was the word of God.
So I think changing in modern courts, where quite often you're not required to swear on the Bible, are you? You can.
Well, you can do an affirmation. You can do an affirmation.
If you declare yourself you're an atheist or whatever it is,
you've still got to swear. You've still got to swear an oath.
But the swear is done differently, isn't it? There's no Bible involved, for example, is there?
No, excuse me, mate. I've just got to go for a wee.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Let's just pause a second.
Go to the toilet now. Do you want to pause?
Yeah, hang on. All right, so just one little question before we move on from that. It's not too much of a diversion. So someone walks into the court and says, well, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in all this nonsense, or I'm Buddhist or a Muslim or something else, and they don't swear to Almighty God or they don't swear to the Bible, does that get them out of jail then? I mean, do they just say, I'm not swearing to God, Almighty God, or any other Jehovah version?
No, because they still have to make an affirmation, don't they? So there's still, what becomes important is their word, their
Right.
spoken word, and
Okay.
their spoken word is their vow, it's their truth, isn't it? And that's, again, this goes back to the old religion. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God. And
Okay.
what you're saying, okay, they're not swearing on God, but they are swearing on their own word. So my view is that given that we were made of the same stuff as God, then we're basically swearing on the same things, whether or not we believe in them or not. And my argument always is it doesn't matter whether you believe in the devil believes in you, and he wants
Right.
and he
Okay.
want
Yeah.
and he wants your soul. I'm a big believer in that, Ross. I don't think it is like it's portrayed on some of the films, but certainly in terms of cyclic nature of human beings being reborn and rebirthed into other bodies because you're not knowledgeable enough to get out of the trap. Yeah, certainly that's what hell is for me. So as long as you remain illiterate in this world, then you're going to remain a prisoner in this world. So anyway, getting back onto this persona business.
Yep.
The most important entry is in relation to the persona. So again, this for me shows how the legal name originated from the Roman law, okay, and has operated on two principles or personalities. And what's really interesting about this as well is something called this lex scripta. Now, lex scripta, again, which is found in this most up-to-date version of Black Laws, is this old Latin, what would you say? I suppose it's a legal law, isn't it? It's what they use. It's a maxim. So, and it says, if the law is silent, or if the written law is silent, that which is drawn from manners and customs ought to be observed. And if that is in any manner defective, then what is next and consistent with it? And if that does not appear, then the law that Rome uses should be followed. Now, this is in Black Law's 11th edition. So it's basically saying there that wherever there's a country or a nation where the law isn't coming to the surface, or if they feel that it's defective in some kind of way, or it's not showing itself, in other words, you're not using it, they will automatically use the law of Rome. And this is one of their maxims, mate. This is a legal maxim. It's called
So it might
lex
just
scripta.
be something which they haven't got round to writing a law about. Something that's just not covered yet.
Yeah, and what this basically does as well, this would allow them to go into other nations and basically impose their laws on different cultures, especially if they feel that the law isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. So basically, they've given themselves a legal right to be able to say, well, this is the maxim that we follow. And if we come into your land and we decide that your land isn't functioning properly, or the manners and the customs aren't being observed, then we will
Or if just
use.
your written law doesn't cover it. I think that's what it means by
Yeah,
silent, isn't it? There's
yeah, totally. Yeah, if it's silent, if your law doesn't cover it, we'll put it in there for you.
Yes.
And this is in their dictionary. So this is the principle that they're working from. This sense of entitlement. We will do it if you don't do it. And again, the same edition, the 11th edition, shows how the persona is the legal name. So we go into this name and arm clause, and look, legal name, a person's full name as recognized in law, a legal name acquired at birth or through a court order. For example, moon unit. It's telling you in black and white.
What do you mean by moon unit? Where does that come from?
Well, that's Prince, wasn't it? So look, it may mean a single name, e.g. Prince, or
Oh, right.
include
They're talking about
words.
the former pop star, right? Okay.
Yeah, or not generally using human names, e.g. moon
Just
unit.
bizarre
So
to think just examples in it in a legal
it's an
text.
example of a legal name. So basically, Prince was his legal name, and it's a name that's acquired at birth, as
But
you can
he's
quite
changed his
clearly
through a
see.
court order.
Yeah,
What they call that? When you go to you can change it by court order. You can change your name,
depot.
can't you? Depot. That's
Yeah,
the one I was looking for. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you don't even need to do a depot. You could just start using your new name, and
Yes.
that's good enough. As long as you start putting it on
As long as
onto
it's
all of
not
the
for fraudulent
documents.
as long as it's not for fraudulent purposes, I believe, isn't
Yeah.
it? The rule.
So I showed you the example birth certificate, which showed you the uppercase words are generally fixed on the surname, aren't they?
Generally, yeah.
And it's always written in uppercase. So this is where we then go into the reasons and the rhyme behind that. So we obviously come to this New Oxford style of manual, which is the same as the Chicago Manual of Styles. So these two books here, the New Oxford and the Chicago, are basically the official go-tos for all of officialdom. So all of the banks, the City of London, all of that, anything to do with officialdom will get their language definitions from these two books. Okay, this is where it's all hidden away for everyone.
Yeah, it's not even hidden, really, is it? We're just not aware of it. I
You
mean,
could just buy it.
I
It's
mean,
all in there.
you have to have this if you think about it, because it's no good. We have to agree what words mean.
Yeah, totally.
We're going to fight a legal case over. If I say it's your responsibility, oh, well, hang on, what does responsibility mean? And you got to look it up in there, and oh, well, this is what it means, or whatever. That's just a random example.
And well, no, you're right, because when you receive a document, say, or a letter from a solicitor about something, technically speaking, what you need to do is go through those words with a legal dictionary, as well as I would suggest a Strong's Bible concordance as well, to find out the words that are in that legal document. To go,
What
well,
they're actually
actually,
saying.
this word could mean this and this word can mean that, and before you even go into any kind of negotiation, you've got to clarify, and well, actually, what do you mean by this word, and this is where you're getting into the negotiation side of things as well. So these two books are crucial, along with Latin and English etymologies and all
See,
these
this
other
gives more weight
things.
to my bizarre theory I'm coming into at some point, that I think Latin was actually a more recently created language. It's not ancient at all, but there you go. And it's all done
You could be right there.
I think it's got to do with all this. Is that the purpose is to create a legal, well, what we're showing.
Yeah, so it's an entity to be able to come after your soul.
Yeah,
so
you need an agreed legal framework, which is also international. If you notice, it's the international language of medicine, science, law. You
absolutely. It's an
but no one
institutionalized
speaks
thing, isn't it?
But no one speaks it. It's a bizarre language, really.
They speak it in legalese. That's where it's found. So that's the language of the lawyers, isn't it?
Yes, that's what I mean. It's not a common tongue for anywhere. It's not really of a country.
No, but
I'd be very surprised if it was actually ever commonly spoken in Italy, even. But that's the site.
Yeah, but you saying this thing about
yeah, go on. This is funny. Go on.
Sort of modern things with Latin being a modern thing. We've got this American Sign Language, and American Sign Language is obviously for people that can't speak or hear, or what we'd call as deaf and dumb, which seems ironic, doesn't it, when we're talking about Dog Latin is the language of the illiterates. Now, that is obviously not me saying that deaf and dumb people are illiterate.
Yeah,
I'm not casting any aspersions, but
it's the ability to talk with your mouth is what we're discussing.
Yes, this is the thing. It's the sound. It's the word of God, because that's in the beginning was the word. So all cap. The word was with God. So all cap words are known as gloss words, and they're known as gloss words in the Chicago Manual of Style. The definitions of it are like this. Well, it says it quite clearly. But as I showed you before, the relevant pages are on page 665 and 666. So we're talking about the work of we're talking about the work of the devil.
Also with the most bizarre sense of humor, with a lot too much time on their hands.
Yeah, and we've got the 666 page. So basically, in this American Chicago Manual Styles,
it's basically start getting sick.
It's basically got this definition of glosses in ASL, which is the written language transcription of a sign is called a gloss. Well, it basically explains how these glosses can be written in capitals and even in small capital letters. And there's some examples there: women, school, and cat.
Yeah, the small capitals is something I've never understood either, but there we go.
Yeah. So then we've got how you're supposed to write signs
Yes.
properly, as you said there, is with the hyphens in between. So the ASL sign for a car drove by is written as vehicle drive by, all in uppercase with these hyphens in between. And this is on page 665. Well, the page where it tells you that this kind of language is a language other than English is on page 666, which is this one here. And it says a language other than English. So, and it's basically talking about the limitations of using this kind of style of language, other than the fact that it's not English.
I mean, just read out that definition, because it's got a twist in the last few words.
Yeah, one obvious limitation of the use of glosses from the spoken or written language to represent signs is that there is no one-to-one correspondence between the words or signs in any two languages. Basically, what you're writing doesn't mean anything. I mean, there's no correspondence.
You can't have a normal regular dictionary. That word means that word. That word means that word.
No, not unless you put these hyphens in between them. If you put the and then it becomes American Sign Language. It's not English. It's American Sign Language. It's not the English language.
And then you need your Strongs or whatever, your legal dictionary, then to actually find out what that word means. Then.
Yeah, and then you're finding out.
Or what their definition of it, I would say, is better than means.
Yeah, and then what you've got there is obviously by writing in gloss, you're writing in dog Latin. So I put basically there. Yeah, well, this is what I've done here. I put this statement has no grammatical standing in the English language, but then this statement has grammatical standing in the English language because it's got the hyphens in it.
Bizarre, isn't it? Do you think
it's not English?
Any idea? Have you any thoughts about why they put the dashes in?
To make it a valid language, to make it valid ASL, to make it a valid American Sign Language.
Okay, yeah. It's just struck me that maybe because it's written and only writing out checks and things, it's a good idea to do something like that, because you can't. It's very difficult to squeeze on the example with spaces. You could be able to squeeze letters in, perhaps. You could fiddle it a bit with the dashes. There's no gaps to. There's just a sort of a practical thing.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there.
More difficult to change what the letters are.
Yeah, but it's actually telling you in their book that it's not English.
It's not English.
It's a language other than English, and yet it's on all of our legal documents.
Yeah, we see it all the time.
This style of language, and it'd be okay if we had these dashes, these hyphens, because then it would mean something in American Sign Language. We could look for an English translation that would have validity, as part of the English language. But the very fact it's telling you here,
but bizarrely,
the obvious limitation is that there's no correspondence in English.
No one talks this as such. Yes.
No, unless you actually use these hyphens, it doesn't mean anything. And then obviously going into the dog Latin side of it. So in the 4th edition of Black Law's edition, you've got this definition of dog Latin.
1968. Okay, right. Yeah.
Yeah, which says the Latin of illiterate persons. Latin words put together on the English grammatical system. There you go.
Bonkers.
And that's the same as the gloss.
So when did the ASL come in, do you reckon? The sign language?
I'm not sure what year they brought the sign language in.
It can't be that old. It can't be that old, sign language, can it?
I wouldn't say it's that old. I mean, the Latin side
years old or something.
Yeah, I mean, if you're saying it's not as old as what you think it is, I mean, what are you saying? 100, 150 years old, maybe, or 200 years old instead of 700 or 800 years old.
1850s, 1860s, something like that. Yeah,
I reckon you could be right, because that could have even. I mean, they've obviously, the ASL has been taken from Dog Latin clearly, but what they've realised is that they can't take Dog Latin literally without putting the hyphens in between, because otherwise it becomes a language that's not English. We can only understand this Dog Latin and this ASL because they've put the hyphens in between it for it to mean something. But even though they've put the hyphens in between it, it's still not English.
No, it's you can see that example says it perfectly. I mean, a car drove by, a very simple sentence anyone can understand. Vehicle drive by, it's not a proper sentence, is it really?
No, it's the sign of how they would do it. So whatever they're signing in their hands is represented by this here.
Right. Okay. Got you now. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as we're
Yeah.
speaking
It's
and
like a
going, a car
continuous
drove
present
by,
tense.
they're going vehicle, drive, or whatever they're doing with their
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the sign for it. So their words are their sign language.
And it's a dumbed down kind of English in a way because there's no tenses or anything in there, is there? It's
There's no sound
no
either.
grammar. No,
There's no
almost
grammar.
no sound, is it? That's the
There's no
point.
sound, and that's the key thing, because the word was with God. Because in the beginning was sound, because in the beginning was the word. Well, words are spoken words, which are sound. Everything to do with the creation is to do with sound, isn't it?
Yeah, well, frequencies anyway.
Frequencies, yeah, totally bang on.
Same sort
So
of thing.
there you have that information there, hidden away in this Chicago Manual of Styles.
So you'd expect every lawyer to have a copy of that sitting on their shelf near them.
They don't.
No,
They don't. No. I would suggest that
I have to say
probably
I studied some law at college.
you wouldn't have
I
known it.
never
You
had any of
didn't.
this mentioned at any
No.
point.
I would make a suggestion that probably very high-ranking barristers and lords and scholars may understand this, but your basic solicitors and your basic lawyers, mate, ain't got a clue. They haven't got a clue.
Never thought of it, probably.
Never even thought of it. Haven't even figured out that there's a person there, that they're representing two different things. This is why you have to have a lawyer representing you, because you're too stupid to go into court. You're illiterate. That's why you have a representative that works for their organization, that's taken an oath to them. Because the first oath of the solicitor or the lawyer is to the crown, isn't it? That's where their loyalty is to. It's to the crown, and then it's to the judiciary, and then it's to you. So you're at the bottom of the pile. So let's just say, for example, you take a case that's against the crown, and it's going to be something that is potentially damaging to the crown. Your solicitor is not going to be working for you in the full capacity that they should be working for you. Let's put it that way.
Would they be aware of that? Does it have to be? How would they be reminded of this part of their vow?
Well, I
think they're well intentioned. I don't think they're a bunch of bad people. If you come in, they would like to win the case, wouldn't they? They'll be
totally.
Like even do it pro bono. You know what I mean? They want to just make a legal point, perhaps. But
but I think if you were to do something that was obviously going to be damaging to the crown or something like that, you're going to basically be shooting yourself in the foot as a career as a solicitor, as a barrister. You might find your career suddenly come to a halt, or you're not working for the same organization or whatever it is. I don't know. This is why with me going into law, I won't be signing on to any of these oaths. I'm going to be remaining a Mackenzie friend type of person, where I can still go into the courts with the legal knowledge, but I don't have to be a registered barrister. I don't have to be a solicitor that's paying into you're paying my fees and stuff, because when you register with them, you have, as a barrister, I think it's about £5,000 a year you have to pay to be a member.
okay.
It's to be a member of the bar association and things like that.
Forget about these things. Then you have to be accepted, of course, don't you? And,
or you got to be called to it. So if you're saying things that we don't want him on there, and this is the rules that they've made.
Can't you?
Yeah, and the rules is that you can't go into, as a person. So as an individual, if you wanted to represent yourself, you could represent yourself in the magistrates and the county courts. But if you wanted to go up into the high courts and represent yourself, you wouldn't be allowed. The rules, if you were trying to go in there and to represent yourself in a legal sense, you'd have to declare that you are some sort of Mackenzie friend or something, to get around that rule, because they won't let you into the court otherwise. You just won't even be allowed in if you try and represent yourself, because they don't want you there representing yourself, especially if you know what you're talking about. They're the last person you want in there, because if you've got the knowledge that some of these judges have, you don't need to know, you don't need to be a solicitor, or you don't need to be a lawyer. You can be a lay person or as a Mackenzie friend. And that's how I intend in future, is to represent people, is to go into court with them as a Mackenzie friend, you know, writing them little slips and little notes, rather than actually registering to become a solicitor and going down the barrister route officially.
Would you still stand in court then, or do they have to speak for themselves?
No, I
slip in notes to them.
Yeah, basically as a Mackenzie friend as well. And what people don't realise as well, because courts are quite a hostile area, a hostile environment, and people feel generally pressured.
Yeah, very stressful, aren't they?
Yeah, and a judge is sitting there saying, you know, you answer that question. You know, what are you going to do? Everybody's kind of thinking, oh, you know, I'm rushed. What can I do? I don't know what to say. You know, or panic or whatever. What people don't realise is that it's your court. You know, the judge is there as the adjudicator. He's just going to follow whatever rules he's got to follow. So if you set the rules, he's going to try and change it back to the other rules that he can follow, but he's just there to arbitrate, isn't he? He's there to adjudicate the decisions. He's there to look at the evidence. He's there to weigh things up. Whilst you're talking, it's your court. It's your court. You're talking, so as long as you know what to say, and as long as you know the right things to say, you're talking within your court. So you're allowed to say, within reason, you know, if the judge says to you, what's your answer? You got to answer to me. You're well, rather than bumbling around going, oh, I don't know. You're well within your rights to say, well, actually, Your Honour, I need a 5-minute recess here to write down my answer and have a think about things, and he has to give it you. And you can do that every time he asks you a question. I'm just going to take a recess there for 5 minutes, Your Honour, so I can write down my answer.
And could you confer with someone then while you're thinking of that answer? Is that what your Mackenzie friend would be useful?
Yeah, basically, yeah. And you'd be turning to your Mackenzie friend, and I'd be sitting there writing something down on a bit of paper for you then to say. And that's how that would work. You know, so you're working through it that way. So there's ways around it.
It's funny, I've seen a similar thing that sprung to mind when you watch the Godfather movies. There's an interview, it might be Godfather 3 even, where the guy, almost the situation you're describing is happening. He's being interviewed by a lawyer or the police. Yeah, it's one of those congressional hearings, isn't it? He's in front of the Senate or the Congress or something, and he's sitting there. But it's actually the lawyer doing all the things you're saying, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And they say, well, I'm not going to answer that, you know.
Yeah, and you don't have to be rushed into answer it either.
We'll have a session there to discuss this one, and they're like, come on, you're chatting to each other, don't you? And they're having
you just put the pause button in the courtroom. I'm trying to, you know, instead of like a lemon for 2 minutes while I write stuff.
Yeah,
that's basically it.
Well, that's sink in, isn't it?
Yeah,
but it's like you said, it's amazing, really. I mean, I did. No, I haven't got a law degree or anything, but I think I might have enough for a first year exemption, or whatever they call it. Anyway, they're equivalent to a foundation course, you know, and did quite a bit of contract law, mostly contract, and this is absolutely crucial to contract law, and none of this was mentioned at all.
Everything is a contract. I mean, the more I've gone into my law stuff, friendships are contracts, relationships are contracts. You know, the vows that you make on your wedding day, that's part of a contract. That's your terms and your conditions. You know, everything that we're doing, and this is the beauty of it, all human interaction is contracting. And when you actually go back and look, I mean, Mithras, for example, he was the god of contracts. So it kind of gives you an idea of why Abraham was making all the contracts with the Lord.
Well, Mithras, that's in Mithridates.
Mithras,
the bull god.
Yeah, Mithras slew the bull, didn't he? So that's basically the Lord killing Zeus, because Zeus' symbol was the bull. So that's basically Mithras wresting the power from the Olympians. You know, Zeus the Olympian, so that's, you know, the Lord would be Marduk in that sense, because it was the Babylonian Marduk that overtook everything, wasn't it? That became the monotheistic deity, and that's basically.
But none of those gods. But none of those gods can stand up to legalese and contract law. They all have to bow down below that.
Yeah, well, everything's to do with the contract, isn't it? And that's why that Mithras and the
Lord, I mean, this whole thing we've been talking about is getting rid of your overwriting your God-given name and your God-given rights, and the fact you're a living, breathing man or woman.
Yeah.
and it's replacing all that with, oh yeah, okay, fine, and it's a surname. We're going on
Yeah,
top of that.
they
Forget all
placed
the
it in
natural,
contracts.
what they're so-called inalienable rights, which should mean they can't be taken away. We are going to take them all
Yeah.
away,
Well, they
and we're
have
going to deal
taken them
with you
away.
on this legal plane now.
That's because we've agreed to it, because we've consented to it. So when they send us the letters with all the information which applies to the legal title, we answer it. We, the human being, answers it.
Yeah, but you can't ignore it either, can you? You're kind of over a barrel, really, aren't you?
You are over a barrel, but you can ignore it as long as you know the right words to say and you know the right things to do.
Yes. Well, it's not ignoring it then, is it? You have to reply in the correct.
Well, because silence is tacit agreement as well, isn't it? If you're
Always it
silent
was
to
the problem.
them,
You have to keep bouncing things back, don't you?
yeah, you've
Every
got
time
to
you get
put
a
the
letter, you got
court.
to send a letter. You know, it just goes on and on, doesn't it? This is why
You put the ball in their court, and as soon as they stop communicating, you've won, basically, because they've basically accepted your terms and your
Well,
conditions.
I've got the details. Why it's similar running with the council on regards to my chickens actually, and that was a similar thing there, where just I don't have the same legal training you do, but I just kept asking them questions about what they're basing their judgment on. You know, what laws were they using, what acts were they using, where's their procedures for this, and they just sort of gave up really.
Yeah, you've
I
got
also
to ask them.
I also gave them a legal a nice easy way out as well. I put together, well, I will do the following reasonable steps to improve the situation, but I need this and this. These questions answered for you to actually enforce anything on me.
Yeah, you've got to put the burden on them, because in most cases, what you're going to have in a lot of situations is an official, a person, a man or a woman working in an official capacity in a legal personhood, and they're going to be coming to you saying, you've got to do something. You have to do this.
Yes.
And that's when
That's what got my backup when because they started from that point of view.
Yeah, you have to do
I'm
this.
like, well, I'm prepared to be reasonable here.
Yeah.
And discuss an outcome, but don't come in, if you're going to start bossing, I need to know exactly what you're relying on and what are your jurisdictions, what's your laws, and make the whole thing a pain in the arse.
That is a perfectly reasonable way of doing it. What you're doing there is not, it doesn't create any conflict. It doesn't create controversy, because you're not turning around going, sod you, F you, go away, get out of my life. You've got no right to be doing any of this, blah, 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 blah,
yes,
blah.
I think that's what people are, yes, I think that's where people,
mate,
it's very dangerous at the moment.
That's wrong.
There's a lot of YouTube stuff and everything where people are doing just that.
Don't do it.
You think this isn't anything? This isn't me. This isn't my legal persona. I'm me. Fuck you, and then pump in the bin.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
No.
Snotty letters is
no,
not.
it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's like it works. It goes back to this same thing of, well, I don't believe in God, so none of this matters to me. Well, God believes in you, so it doesn't matter what you think. I don't believe in the devil. Well, the devil believes in you, and he wants your soul. So if you don't believe in him, he's going to get your soul much easier.
Even easier, yeah. You don't put up a fight. Yes.
So
yes.
Great. You crack on. As far as he's concerned, don't believe.
Already. You're in there.
You're done already, mate. You're going back around in the cycle because he's got your soul, and it's as simple as that. So
Excellent. All right, I think it's a great place to finish there. Thank you very much, Luke.
And
we'll be coming back with lots more of this.
There's going to be loads, mate. It's going to be a series, probably.
Yeah. And it's a bit. You suddenly realise things you might have done in the past and all that. I think, oh my goodness, I put my foot in it there, or I might have got myself stuck in a situation like this situation we're talking about. If you have signed up and you've got a birth certificate and you've got deeds on your house and property and legal contracts, it's not for. I don't want a full answer now. It's a short answer. We can look at another time. Is there then a way of reversing back out to that so you can try and save your soul, perhaps?
Yeah, totally. At the end of the day,
isn't it?
absolutely. You don't have
to save your soul.
Yeah,
in the next part.
It's all a choice. Everything is a choice, and everything. Even when people are threatening violence upon you and stuff like that, what you've got to appreciate is it all comes down to a choice, and it all comes down to whether or not you are going to be handing over your soul and coming back round. I mean, I very much believe in that, but again, that's a topic for another discussion. But in answer to your question, yes, there is a remedy. There's always a remedy.
The remedy. I love that word. I have to remember it more. Yes, the remedy. A remedy in law, old boy.
Yeah, but there's remedies. You've just got to be careful. I'm saying,
I've heard stories recently of people get into serious trouble because they're charging in with this common law and quoting Malmud and things like that.
No, I'm not interested in any of that. I'm not interested in this
Disdainful of the
free
court,
man
if
of the
you like.
land stuff. The free man stuff is dangerous. And
Yeah,
when you actually go and look at the meaning of free man, it actually comes from the old Saxon word freeman, which is freeman, yeah, which means the allodial lord. So you have the allodial deeds to land, basically. So the allodial title in law.
Allodial?
And the allodial,
sorry,
yeah.
that's a new word for me, allodial.
So when you've got the allodial deeds to a property, basically it means that you are the tenant. Sorry, you're the landlord, not the tenant. Okay, you own the lands, you own the deeds. So you're not basically leasing them off the crown or anything like that. Although, you have the allodial title, which means they're yours.
Kind of.
Kind of. Kind of.
The landlord's always the crown, isn't it? But anyway.
Yeah, we understand that. But you get that. Anyway.
This is where it gets, anyway, it gets a legal fun.
But yeah, the freemen were the lords that had the allodial titles anyway.
So the freemen were the lords, not the common man, as it were.
Yeah, and that's what this
is where that dictionary is so useful again, isn't it? Because you need to look at them. What does freeman mean?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's an old Saxon word, which means it's the freemans. The freeman.
What's the legal definition in the Strong's book? You know, what does he say that word means?
What, for a free man?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's even in there. I'd have to have a look.
Yeah. Okay, there we are. All right, we'll come back to the next time. Well, thanks, Luke. Fascinating.
No worries.
As always, and the hours and hours and hours just fly by. My goodness.
I know.
I
quarter to 2.
I feel so uneducated sometimes. You think, what did people used to do in the old days? And they studied for years and years and years. And you realise it's the kind of thing they would be studying and discussing. Whereas today,
reading,
you don't discuss anything serious in the mainstream society or media, or it's just nothing serious. This is really, really important. This could not be more serious or more important. The whole legal standing. Yeah,
Bible as well, understanding who God is.
Yeah, like who God is, what his soul is. I mean, these are just there aren't bigger subjects in this, really.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So right, okay. Well, apart from where my lunch is coming from.
Okay, so what do I do now then?
Excellent.
Just leave, is it?
You just say goodbye and give everyone a nice big wave with your Superman shirt hiding underneath, and we'll see you again.
See you later.
Bye.